A pastor just called out Donald Trump to his face in front of cameras at the National Prayer Breakfast, and Trump had to sit there and take it. This almost never happens. Not from reporters who fold under pressure, not from world leaders offering subtle shade. A pastor standing at a podium directly confronting the president about Minneapolis, about compassion, about the suffering his policies have caused. Trump sat behind him visibly furious, and there was nothing he could do. But that wasn't even how the event started. Trump opened the prayer breakfast by attacking Democrats, complaining about media coverage, and rambling about whether he's getting into heaven at a prayer breakfast. Let me show you how this unraveled. And you know, I never get a fair break from the fake news, which is back there. That's a lot of fake news, because last time I was having a lot of fun. We had a big round with 60,000 people, and I'm talking about the fact that I will never make it to heaven. I will never, ever. And I was being funny. I was trying to be, you can't be sarcastic with them because they write your words and the people who are reading the words are much different than, but I say I'm never going to make it to heaven. I just don't think I qualify. I don't think there's a thing I can do. But all of these good things I'm doing, including for religion, religion's back now hotter than ever before. I mean, I have to tell applause. But I said, even though I did that and so many other things, I named things. I said, I won't qualify. I'm not going to make it to heaven. And the New York Times did a front page story that Donald Trump is questioning his life and the meaning of his life. No, I was just having fun. I really think I probably should make it. I mean, I'm not a perfect candidate, but I did a hell of a lot of good for perfect people. Trump's complaint was that last year when he said he wasn't getting into heaven, the media reported it. His grievance is that journalists quoted his words accurately. He claimed he was being sarcastic, but he then doubled down saying he's not a perfect candidate, but did a hell of a lot of good for people at a prayer breakfast. This is the pattern. Trump cannot enter a room without making it about himself, his grievances, his perceived unfair treatment, even at a religious event designed for reflection and unity. But it got worse. Trump then pivoted to attacking Democrats in the room. I don't know how a person of faith can vote for a Democrat. I really don't. And I know we have some here today, and I don't know why they're here, because they certainly don't give us their vote. I certainly know that we're not going to be convincing them to vote for a little thing called voter ID. It polls at 97%. And even the Democrat, the people, the voters are at 82% for voter ID, but the leaders don't want to approve it. They said they will strike. They will not allow it to happen. It's polling at over 90%. It's called voter identification. When you go to the polls, you show a yes, my name is so-and-so and I live in the country. I'm here. I can vote. They say that's not allowed. And no, everyone's trying to figure it out and they do something to win. You know what it is? They cheat. But let's get on to another subject. No, at that, they're the finest probably anywhere in the world, I would say. But we're trying to pass voter ID and other things having to do with your religion. And getting the Democrats to vote is very, very tough. But at a prayer breakfast, the president said he doesn't understand how a person of faith can vote for a Democrat. He questioned why Democrats even attended. Then he launched into a rant about voter ID and accused Democrats of cheating. This is a religious event attended by people of multiple faiths and political affiliations, and Trump used it as a campaign rally. But then something remarkable happened. A pastor took the podium, and instead of offering platitudes, he spoke directly to what the moment required. Without you, none of us can adjudicate the overwhelming details of leadership in life. Today we pray for America, and we pray for all parliamentarians around the world. The book of Timothy teaches us that you've been entrusted with leadership. Today we pray for the future of this nation and that you would lead this president into greater levels of compassion for your name's sake. We pray that you would protect him from the iniquities of evil and that you would give him greater clarity, greater courage, and greater capacity to do what is right and forever challenges. Today we remind him that the lives of millions of people are in his hands and that he has the power to turn mourning into dancing or to reduce the country into a cosmic elegy of chaos and suffering. And it is because of this that we pray that the best of this president would rise among us for the sake of this nation, for the sake of this world. We pray that goodness and mercy would announce themselves in his life in new and powerful ways. We pray that he would be mindful of the poor and that he would be invested in the elevation, the alleviation of suffering happening on farms in the Midwest, in the families preparing to bury their loved ones in Minneapolis. Remind him that we are all Americans, all made in the image of God, and that none of us are free unless all of us have our freedoms protected. Let me read you what that pastor said, because the words matter today. We remind him that the lives of millions of people are in his hands, and that he has the power to turn mourning into dancing or to reduce the country into a cosmic elegy of chaos and suffering. He prayed that Trump would be mindful of the poor and invested in the alleviation of suffering happening on farms in the Midwest, in the families preparing to bury their loved ones in Minneapolis. He said, "Remind him that we are all Americans, all made in the image of God, and that none of us are free unless all of us have our freedoms protected." Trump sat there, visibly uncomfortable, unable to respond, unable to interrupt, forced to receive a public rebuke in a setting where he couldn't fight back. This is significant because it almost never happens. When Caitlin Collins was attacked by Trump for not smiling enough while discussing Epstein survivors, no one in the press corps defended her. When reporters are mocked and belittled, their colleagues rarely push back. The norm has become silence in the face of presidential hostility. But this pastor broke that norm. He used the platform he was given to speak truth directly to power, and Trump had no recourse but to absorb it. The rest of the event didn't improve for Trump. He attempted to acknowledge the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. It went badly. And we're joined today by a very, very brave and wonderful man, the president of the Congo. President, applause. President, would you stand up, please? You are so, applause, President. Thank you. Applause. And yeah, you really are. You're brave. You're a brave man. I know what you've been through. I know that one very well. That was a hard one. That was many, many years. And it's working out okay. Nothing's easy. Every once in a while, I have to call them both back in, but it's working out okay. It's going to work out good. But you are brave, and we appreciate you being here. Great honor. Great honor. Good guy. Together. He and I have Trump couldn't say the president's name. He rambled incoherently, calling him so president multiple times. Whether he forgot the name, couldn't read the teleprompter, or simply refused to try pronouncing it, the result was the same. Visible incompetence on an international stage. This is a man who demands respect from world leaders while being unable or unwilling to learn their names. And Trump seems to be developing some awareness of how he's perceived internationally. At the same event, he referenced his Davos reception. Sad thing. And I tell it, I went over to Davos. They invited me, and when I left, they said that may have been the stupidest invitation we ever gave to somebody. Switzerland, but they have to, I just say it like it is. They're destroying their country. Their energy is ridiculous what they've done. And the immigration is, I'm telling you, it's a place where many of these countries are not recognizable, and I'd like to see them straighten it out. Very soon, it's going to be impossible for them to straighten it out. We have our director. Trump acknowledged that after his Davos appearance, they said it may have been the stupidest invitation we ever gave to somebody. He's right, they did regret it. World leaders increasingly view him as a liability, not an ally. His peace summits attract minimal participation. His initiatives generate skepticism. The international community has largely concluded he cannot be trusted, and Trump is starting to recognize it, which may explain why he's so focused on building monuments to himself now before he leaves office. The Arch, the Ballroom, the Peace Board, the Nobel Prize pursuit, these aren't policy priorities. They're legacy projects from someone who suspects history will not be kind. The prayer breakfast ended with Trump celebrating the militarization of Washington. Happened. You know, we took out 2,000 monsters out of Washington, D.C. It's not just that we have the troops and they are central casting. I love them. I think to me it looks much more beautiful. You walk down the street, you have three guys that are 6'6" and angry-looking people, but they actually are very nice. They're angry when they see criminals. That's all. They get angry. They took Trendea. And honestly, I don't want to say this, but they beat the crap out of them. They beat the crap out of them. They found that they were doing bad things, and Trent Diga didn't want anything to do with these guys. Then we put them in the paddy wagon. We took them back to where they came from. You know that. But we took out over 2,000 hardcore criminals. You know, 2% of the population produces 90% of the violent crime. Think of that. Trump boasted about 2,000 monsters removed from Washington. He praised seeing troops in the streets. He described federal agents as central casting and said they beat the crap out of gang members at a prayer breakfast, an event traditionally focused on faith, humility, and service to others. This is the contrast the pastor was drawing, the gap between what religious tradition asks of leaders, compassion, humility, concern for the vulnerable, and what this president actually delivers. Let me put this event in broader context. The prayer breakfast is supposed to be one of the few genuinely bipartisan events in Washington. Presidents traditionally use it to speak about faith, shared values, and national unity. Trump used it to attack Democrats, complain about media coverage, ramble about heaven, mock voter ID opponents, celebrate militarization, and stumble through acknowledging a foreign leader. The pastor's intervention was remarkable precisely because it reasserted what the event is supposed to be, a moment of moral seriousness, a reminder that leadership carries responsibilities beyond personal grievance. Trump's reaction, sitting silently, visibly uncomfortable, demonstrated that he has no response when confronted with genuine moral authority. He can shout down reporters, he can mock opponents, but he couldn't interrupt a prayer. Here's what to watch in the coming weeks. Watch whether other religious leaders follow this pastor's example. If one rebuke generates attention, others may feel empowered to speak. Watch Trump's relationship with religious institutions. He depends on evangelical support, but that support relies on performative alliance, not genuine spiritual engagement. Watch the legacy projects. The more Trump focuses on monuments and awards, the more it signals anxiety about how he'll be remembered. Watch the international relationships. If Trump is becoming aware that world leaders view him as a liability, it may affect his foreign policy calculations. The prayer breakfast was supposed to be a safe space for Trump, a friendly religious audience, a setting designed for positive coverage. Instead, a pastor used the platform to deliver the most direct public rebuke Trump has received from anyone in months. Trump couldn't push back. He couldn't redirect the conversation. He couldn't storm out. He had no choice but to sit there and listen, to be told that the lives of millions rest in his hands, that he holds the power to turn grief into joy or plunge the country into chaos. He had to hear that families in Minneapolis are burying their loved ones, that we are all Americans made in the image of God, and that none of us are truly free unless all of our freedoms are protected. That is what moral leadership sounds like. What we saw from Trump was the complete opposite. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We're following every moment of accountability, every fracture in the armor. Like this video. Leave a comment with your reaction to the pastor's rebuke. Share it with anyone who believes Trump is never challenged. Keep pushing, stay vocal, and I'll see you in the next one.